Anyway, here it is, and you and I are in the midst of it. In the midst of what? Life. Life bringing us this opportunity to experience and express more of itself in us and through us and by means of us. That's no small thing. That's a big, big thing for you and for me to get that. That every day when I wake up, life wakes up in me and says to me, what's it going to be today? Is it going to be this, or is it going to be this? What's it going to be today? Well, when we look at this thing called awakening, whatever that is in our own minds, and we all have a different understanding of it, it's something we're all called to, and it's something we're meant to be, awake. It's not something, however, that we always are pondering or giving our attention to. Indeed, quite the opposite. Each one of us has within us that deep impulse, that deep desire, that deep urge to be more of ourselves and to discover more of ourselves and to unfold more of ourselves. And that's what it is, to awaken, indeed. Each one of us has within us the seed that wants to bloom and wants to blossom and wants to produce fruit. Each one of us has that seed of life within us. And it's up to you and it's up to me to allow that seed to grow or not, as the case may be, or how to grow, or how much to grow. They discovered a seed recently that was 30,000 years old, and it was still a seed, still alive, and still had the capacity to grow. And the reason why it wasn't growing was because it wasn't in the right soil. And when they put it in the right soil, a 30,000-year-old seed began to grow. Do you not think that the seed within you cannot grow no matter how much you've sat on it? No matter how much you've held it in and would not put it in the right soil? It's still alive and it's still ready, bursting, burgeoning with this sense of itself as something huge and big and grand and blossoming and fruit-bearing. That's what that seed in you is. And that's what the message is for you today. To look at the seed within and to see what you're doing with that and how you're nurturing it and how you're nourishing it and how you're growing it. Because it's time. Today just might be the day. Today might be the day for us to really commit to growing the seed of our best selves, our great selves, our holy selves, our sacred selves, our highest selves. Today might be the day when we get it. There might be a few of us in this room who's going to walk out today, by Jove, having gotten it, having known to itself in this moment now, the change is occurring and I'm ready for the fruit to come through. I'm ready now. Maybe one of us will get it. I wonder if it's you. I wonder if it's you. We'll get it today. Because that's why we're here. We're here to get it, to embrace it. You see, this thing called the fullness of life, this thing called the abundance of life, this thing called the fruitfulness of life, enlightenment, awakenment, whatever you want to call it, is given to each and every one of us. It's strong within each and every one of us, that impulse. Every single one of us, without exception, has that seed within us that is always ready for new growth and a surge in expression and expansion of itself by means of you and by means of each one of us. But unfortunately, most of us ignore it. Most of us ignore it. This thing called enlightenment is not something most of us take seriously at all. In fact, we don't. We mostly poo-poo it, put it aside. And we try our best not to focus on it, indeed. We do our level best not to be caught up in that focus and put it aside, because there are other great good things in life that distract us. Wonderful things like careers and families and the accumulation of all kinds of wonderful skills and things and so on, all good in and of themselves, but not good enough to satisfy our souls, not good enough to bring us to peace and a sense of contentment and satisfaction, not good enough to give us that sense of ourselves, the only sense of ourselves that's going to be enough to fulfill us. Why? Because these are all worldly things, human things, mortal things, and they could never fully satisfy us. Those things would be absolutely much more thrilling if at the same time we were developing and growing the divine aspects of our being alongside of the human ones. Then that alignment would have been reached, that harmony would have been realized, that union would have taken place between the two, the human and the divine. But mostly, we want to put the divine aside. We don't want to focus on it. We're too busy caught up here, because this is where everybody is, and this is what everybody's doing, and because they are, I seem to want to need to do the same thing as everybody else. And it keeps us back, and it stops us, and it blocks us. You see, very few of us are willing to remember that we are made in the image and in the likeness of greatness and magnificence, and an incredible force that is always urging us to creativity. No, what we want to identify with is our human lineage, our human inheritance. We more than identify with, the parents that we have, and God bless our parents, wonderful beings that they are, doing the best that they could do. But very often what we're identifying with is parents who have been troubled, parents who have been limited in some way, and yet that's what we identify with, and that's where we take our cues from, and that's the human inheritance that we identify with. I've got my father's this, I've got my mother's that. Oh yeah, I inherited my father's varicose veins, I heard somebody once say to me, and so on and so forth. And there you have it. And so we're very good at doing that. And as much as we hear, we are not our human inheritance, we still don't believe it, because everybody else, especially in the medical field, will tell you, oh my God, all the people in your family died of heart trouble. Here, take these statins. Or whatever, because you must, because it's in your genes, and so forth. So we buy into that, and we say yes to that, and so on. And I'm talking about a common sense approach to life here, cover all your angles, get the two ends to meet in the middle, the divine and the human, get them to meet in the middle, and cover your options. By all means, get the insurances and so on and so forth, but know that you'll never have to use them, etc. But cover your corners. And render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. So, what is it that's going to help you and me to give that seed that opportunity to really, no matter what stage of growth it's at the moment, to really flourish, to thrive, and so on? What is that? It's the same thing as you've heard from the incipiency of coming into this teaching. Know how life works, and work life the way it works. Come into cooperation with the way that life works. So again, I am going to remind us of the formula that works all of the time for each and every one of us in order to flourish and to thrive, because we have within us the gene, we have within us the enormous capacity to flourish and to thrive. It's our natural given to flourish, to succeed, and to thrive. That's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to show. That's what we're here to participate in. A life that is successful and flourishing and thriving and advancing all the time. Because life is always in a forward movement, always. We want our children to do better than we have done. We want them to become more than we have become. We want them to take it to the next level. We want their children to do the same and the same and the same and the same. Now you're going to hear all the naysayers out there saying that this is the first time in a long time that our children have not had an opportunity to go ahead of their parents with regard to flourishing and thriving because of the economy. That is a nonsense. That is a nonsense. We must not buy into that, because my flourishing and thriving has nothing to do with the economy at all. Nothing. Nothing at all. Remember, in the last depression, most of the millionaires in this country emerged out of the last depression. And so we cannot buy into whatever it is that we are being told about what's going on out there. It's not what's going on out there. It's somebody's impression, even if it is a whole group's impression of what's going on out there, but it's not necessarily the truth. And it doesn't matter what's going on out there anyway. What matters is what's going on in here. That's all that matters. And if what's going on in here is good, then out there is going to be good for me too. Though 1,000 fall by this side and 10,000 this side, I will not be troubled. I will not be harmed in any way. Why? Because I'm known something other than this. That's why. And what I know will happen. So we're coming back to how we can move through life successfully, flourishing and thriving. Know how life happens. How life happens is by means of the projection of consciousness. That's how life happens. Life is a projection of consciousness, a projection of energy, because consciousness is energy. What does that mean simply? Life happens according to the way I think. That's all. Life happens according to the way I think. As I think, so it is. As I believe, so it is. What I know, so it is. What I expect, I experience. That's how life happens. That is how life happens. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are around me or what circumstances present themselves to me. Go into the doctor's office feeling really terrifically healthy and well, and he says, you have an incurable disease. All of a sudden, I'm now deathly sick. And I went in feeling really healthy and well. And I'm coming out told I'm deathly sick. Now, I can go with that, or I can say, baloney, you're not the boss of me. You're not the boss of me. And no condition is the boss of me. And no situation is the boss of me. And no circumstance is the boss of me. I'm the boss of me, and I will decide whether I'm healthy or not healthy. Regardless of my physical symptoms, signs, and conditions, I will be the judge of that. Thank you. And we have seen this in action all the time. I've known people who went into a doctor's office and came out told that they were deathly ill. And they're walking around living and thriving and having a wonderful life today. Now, if it can happen for one of us, it can happen for any one of us. If it can happen for one of us, it can happen for all of us. And all of it is a mindset. That's the difference between people who go into hospital and come out of hospital and people who go into hospital and don't come out of hospital. A mindset. A mindset. People can go into a hospital with the simplest of little things and not come out. People can go in with major things and come out and flourish and thrive. Isn't that interesting? And what's that all about, Alfie? It's all about the projection of consciousness. It's about the projection of consciousness. As I see it, so it is. Don't tell me who and what I am. I will tell that to myself, thank you very much. And you will come into compliance with that. You will support me in that. And that's the way it works. So life is a projection of consciousness. And how do I turn my life around? How do I get my life in line with my purpose? How do I get life in line with everything that I hear, everything that I read, everything that I'm told, everything that really wants to be known within me, though I'm afraid to look at it and say yes to it, because what if it's not true? Well, I'm here to tell you it is true. That's how life works, and it doesn't work in any other way. Life is a projection of your consciousness. Life is your thinking, your thought, and your feeling that backs it up. That's what has produced your life, and that's why your life is the way it is, because of what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what you're allowing yourself to know, what you've accepted as truth for you. Well, I think all of us need to shake that one up today. All of us, every single one of us here can change something or another in the pictures of our lives. And remember, a picture comes first, and then the thinking. So, energy follows thought. Energy serves the mind. Energy follows thought. Power, force, energy follows thought. Underlies thought, supports thought. So a thought is not just a thought. A thought is a power. And you hear me say it. Thought. Every thought is a creative act. Every thought produces something. Every thought produces a thing, a situation, a circumstance, of whatever. Of whatever. So once you and I get how life works, we jolly well better come into compliance with how life works on the bright side of life. Because my thought is either healing me or harming me. And there's no in between. I'm either being healed by my thought or I'm being harmed by my thought. I'm either being supported by my thought or not by my thought. I'm either being uplifted by my thought or thrown down by my thought. I'm either being enlivened by my thought or destroyed by my thought. It's all up to me. I have a mind. Let me use it mindfully, consciously. Let me take care of my thought, and everything else will take care of itself. So knowing that thought rules the world, I know now that life happens through me and not to me. I'm not a victim. Life happens to victims. Well, life doesn't happen to victors. It happens through victors. Victors decide on how their lives are going to be, and that's that. Like many a person. I mean, you've got to be bold in your embracing of this awareness and this teaching and this understanding. Bold, very bold, brassy bold in the embracing of it. Do you think that somebody like Oprah Winfrey could be where she is today if she wasn't bold in embracing a sense of herself? Do you think that as a young, overweight, undereducated teenager coming from deprived circumstances could go up against white, thin, good-looking, well-educated males when she went for that interview that first time for that job to get that television show? Do you think that without that boldness that could ever have happened? Would you say she put herself out on a limb? Would you say she set herself up for all kinds of things to happen if it didn't go the right way? Of course. But she took the risk. She was emboldened because that seed within her was ready to burst its pod, and it was ready to grow and bloom and produce that fruit and bring in that harvest. And if she can do it, anyone can do it. Under those circumstances. She didn't take her whiny, whingy self forward. She stood tall and she stood proud, and she went there knowing she had a contribution to make and that her life could make a difference. And by Jiminy Crickets, it was going to make a difference. No matter what was in front of her or obstacle that was there or perceived by those around her. Can you imagine her friends saying, "Are you out of your tiny mind? Are you mad crazy, woman? What is wrong with you? What did you get up with in today to think that you can go and overcome the establishment, the boys' club, etc.?" Due respect to all of our men, really. Due respect. It's not easy being a man in today's world, I can tell you. It really is not. No more than it is easy being a woman, because the roles are changing and women and men don't quite know how yet to manage or handle that. So I have great compassion for both sides of our sense and sensibilities. But anyway, that's the first thing you've got to know. And the second thing you've got to know is to get into that vision of yours. Get clear about what your good is and what you want. And remember, the law knows nothing of big and small. It doesn't care whether you want a huge thing or a little thing. It'll bring you whatever you want. But it's up to you to conceive it. If your mind can conceive and believe it, your mind can achieve it. So set yourself up with that vision. And when I say set yourself up with that vision, no, you're going to get very, very clear. And to get very, very clear, you get quiet and you get still. Like when you're in the cinema and you're on your gadgets and you're doing all of that and you're chatting away and you're talking, you're munching, you're crunching and all the crinkling of the bags and everything else. But as soon as that movie starts, everything is put away. And the focus goes on the screen and you move into the screen. You're sucked up into that energy and you're in a whole different world. You're zoning with it. That's what you do when you set up your vision. Your vision of the good that you wish to achieve and accomplish. That's what you do. You get quiet. You produce it all. You produce the whole thing. It's the movie. You're setting it up exactly as you want it. You're seeing everything the way you want it to be, whatever that is. You're walking out of the doctor's office. He's patting you on the back. He's saying, "Well done. There's not a thing wrong with you. Indeed, you're boringly healthy." You're boringly healthy. I had a doctor say that to me once. "You're boringly healthy." That's what you're seeing. Or you're seeing yourself being patted on the back for that wonderful deal of yours that you were waiting to make, and there it is. Congratulations, the big check is being handed to you, and so on and so forth. Or you're on the stage, or whatever the hey it is you want to do or realize, you know. There you are, you're in it. You move into it now, you get yourself up out of that chair, you move your derriere up and you jump into it like the purple rose of Cairo. You jump into that screen, you get in there and you become the character in there. You're not looking at or from something a distance. You're in there, you're it, you're doing it, you're receiving it, you're having it, you're saying yes to it, and you're delighted and thrilled because it's a great good you can do with all of that. That's what you do. You get very, very, very clear first. And then when you've done that, what you do is you go about the business of your life absolutely gleed out of your mind, because you're delighted to know that you have had this thought, you've had this vision that you've created, and now the energy of the universe, the law, is moving upon it, and it's bringing it to you, it's bringing it to you, it's bringing it to you. And what you've done now is you produce the end result. That's the way we do things. We produce an end result. We see the end result, and we start living from the end result. We start living as though it is so. We assume the feeling, we assume the thinking, we assume the doing of that as though it were already so. And we are thinking from it, not upon it. We're thinking from it, because the end result forces the details to happen. Now, here's the tricky part. Here is the challenging part. You cannot decide how it's going to happen. You must not outline how it's going to happen. The how of it is none of your business, and that's what stops us and blocks us every single time. We get doubts about how it's going to happen. We can't believe it's going to happen, because how in mother of goodness name is it going to happen? It's an impossible thing. But here's the thing. When you've set up your vision, you haven't done it along the lines of logic. Logic has nothing got to do with the law. The law operates above logic, because everything is possible to the law of mind and action, the creative process. So you have to take your sticky wicky hands off of the how of it and leave it alone, and allow the law to unfold that for you by unfolding it through you. And when you've done that, you back up your decision and your vision with all of your power and your strength and your mind, and you give it your oomph, you give it all you've got, and you're joyful and you're happy and you're gleeful about it, and you are light-footed and you're wholehearted, and you know as sure as you're breathing that this is coming into your life because it's for good. It's for your good, and it's for the good of others too. And because you wish nobody harm, and because you wish not to take one whit away from anybody else, because you're going to realize your wonderful vision and your goal. That's why. Because in all things we must be harmless. In all things we must not want to take from another in order to have what we want. We must not. There's plenty for everybody. Everybody can have what they want, but it cannot be belonging to somebody else. So that's what we're knowing. And then we keep supporting it by acting upon any little inclination that comes our way as far as the fulfillment of that goal realized. Doesn't matter how silly or stupid it may seem to be, we act upon it. And then we don't sit on our TV chair munching popcorn waiting for it to happen. We get out there into the world. We get out there into the world, and we do what we can do, where we can do it, with what we have, how often we can do it as best we can. That's what we do. We get out there and we make the difference. We get out there and be the blessing. We get out there and meet a need if we can, and so on and so forth. As we're knowing this is happening, and we're not even saying waiting, but as we're knowing this is happening, that's how you produce your good. All the time giving thanks for your good already in place. All the time knowing that your source wants you to flourish and to thrive. All the time knowing that you are indeed in God, and life is supportive of you, and the universe supports you, and all that is good wants you to realize you're good. That's the way we do it. That's the way we do it, with that kind of faith, the faith of God, the faith of the creative process. Not faith in, but the faith of, and not pondering upon, but pondering from the good that we desire, because this good is not going to just bless me, it's going to bless everybody else as well. Do you get it? Yes. Have you got it? Yes. Do you want it? Yes. Will you work it? Yes. Are you ready? Yes. Do you want the seed to grow? Yes. Do you want the seed to flourish? Do you want to see to bear fruit? When? So it is.